Hello Scorpio, this is going to be your March through April reading 2020. Please excuse my voice. I have done a lot of readings. A lot of interesting things going on in the world, Scorpios. Let's see where you are. All right, Scorpio. You are definitely having some concerns, but being a Scorpio, you do not want to admit vulnerability. You're like, nope, I'll keep it inside. I'll cry in my bed at night. I'll lock the door. I'll cry into a pillow. I'm not having any feelings, though. Don't worry about it. And inside there is a real problem. I want to tell you guys that I pulled the Devil card for almost every single sign. You know, I think that's just where we are as a collective. You know, I think that's when your buttons are pushed, when your stress level's pushed up, when nobody knows from day to day what's happening. They don't even know if they'll have basic necessities. I think there comes a point where the temptation to just say, screw it, and do all the things you normally don't. You know? I'll eat what I want, I'll skip the gym, I'll drink, do whatever you want. And I think this attitude is apparent to those around you, and they're getting nervous because there is no stopping a Scorpio. There's just not. And if they're distracted with someone or something, there's just no, you know, it becomes this. There's just no way. And I think, you know, you're just at the edge of this emotion right now. You're kind of like able to pull yourself back. You know what's happening. You're kind of like, how far am I going to let this go? And these two cards came out. I put them aside. I just had a laugh. No and remain positive. And the no comes over the Devil card. So there's your answer for that. Just don't do it, Scorpio. It's just that simple. Just don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do that thing where maybe you give yourself excuses. We're so good as human beings about talking ourselves into things. Like, I don't have to really do this now. I can wait until later. You know, maybe I'll just move to an island somewhere and get a tiny house. I think maybe that's what I want to do. I want to leave my job and go build a tiny house on an island, and I'll get a boat and I'll get supplies out there, and if anything like this happens again, I won't have to worry about it because I'll be on my island. I mean, Scorpios will take it there. They'll take it there. And then their families are like, oh my God, are we going to wind up living on an island somewhere? Plus, you're not letting them read your vulnerability, so they really have no idea. They're like, wow, what's going to happen here? Yeah, I think on the outside you're coming off as very cold and distracted. Nobody has any idea, Scorpio, that on the inside you are a rage. A Tower coming up. So this is part of the other thing. You are afraid. And I forgot which, I mean, this is obviously it's not rocket science that this would be going on with a lot of people, but there was one other sign, and I can't remember who it was, who really, really felt terrified about the world around them. Really, really terrified. Terrified that this virus would come into, you know, their family circle, terrified when they're walking out in the world, terrified anything they touch will make them sick, terrified, terrified, terrified. And I think for you, Scorpio, this is magnified because you are typically not that kind of a sign. You know, if you really want somebody to be blatantly honest with you and tell you like it is, and, you know, Scorpio is the person to go to. And they typically, it's not that they don't feel feelings, but they're typically a sign. You usually don't see Scorpios crying on the side of the road. That's not really their thing. They tend to take their emotions, push them down, or they get angry. They don't get sad, they get angry. But they also don't, they're very emotion-based. And they don't really sit there, even when things are going on around them, and say, well, gee, let me really analyze this. They're not really an analytical sign. They're more of like an intuition sign, a gut feeling sign. They act on emotion, and they do well. But I think there's some other things happening with you right now, and it's just driving you crazy. You're like, I can't handle this. Because it's so in your face, you know? I mean, all the stuff on the news and everywhere else. So typically, we don't read the death card literally. But in this case, for you, I think it is literal. You're afraid. I would say it's probably one of the only things that would scare a Scorpio is, you know, their mortality, and I think that's on your mind. And I don't know that you have all of the confidence that you normally do, that you can just, you know, handle this or control it. I think that's what's happening with you, Scorpio. Your sense of strength and self is really being rocked right now. So, I don't mean to laugh. I just, I mean, you don't want to get near anybody. You're like, I'll hide out in a hole and tell me when this is over. Okay. It's going to be okay, Scorpio. I was waiting for something else. It is going to be okay. You know, your fears are not going to come true tomorrow. This is not going to touch you in that kind of a way. It's not to say that this virus has not touched anyone who was a Scorpio, but I mean, I think if it did, it was quite by surprise. I think you're worried about, the other thing I'm seeing here is that you're worried about a specific scenario. You're not just walking around saying, gee, everything's a mess right now and there's this contagious thing flying around. Am I going to be okay? You are playing out a specific scenario in your head, or some of you may be thinking, oh my God, if this thing gets my wife, then I'll be a single father, or, you know, if this thing gets my mother, I'll fall apart because her and I are You're picturing a really specific scenario, and whatever scenario you're picturing, it just doesn't, just drop it. And that's easier said than done, but whatever scenario you have, it's not going to play out that way. So, Scorpio, as always, we'll talk to you soon.